Top of the day, family and friends. We're going to jump back in real quick for another review. Today, we're jumping into civics relations through the Vote for Danavan Hylton brand. So thank you for liking all my platforms for Vote for Danavan Hylton on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram as well. And that platform was created a few years ago, almost 10 plus years ago, when I initially ran for city council in a municipality and decided to just keep the channels open and the platforms open to share my journey of civic educational and engagement growth. And so my work has gone into the actual service to consulting and advising. And now, as those things continue, just reviewing civic related content that comes my way across my path, and anything that's U.S. or United Kingdom related, especially in urban communities of those areas, as well as within and in correlation with the African diaspora countries. Basically, I just have an urban focus, if you will, anything civic, business, and community related. And excuse me, we're jumping into the Vote for Danavan Hylton platform now. And I'm saying that because I'm also on a few other platforms that are not necessarily on Vote for Danavan Hylton. So for example, I'm doing a live on my LinkedIn, just for my personal LinkedIn and not my Vote for Danavan Hylton brand. So I need you all to, if you're on LinkedIn, please and thank you for going to my Vote for Danavan Hylton page on LinkedIn and following and liking that page so I can do my lives from my Vote for Danavan Hylton LinkedIn page when it comes to civic relations. But I got to get those numbers up for my understanding. If not, if you know how to do it, please reach out to me so I can make sure that I'm doing my various topics to include civics in the proper platform, because I don't like to get things mixed up. But in the meantime, this conversation is dealing with international relations, foreign relations, as well as relations within the United States of America. I've been following just current events on Haiti for a while. Like I said, I follow a lot of African diaspora countries as well as urban areas within the United Kingdoms and the United States of America. And so this article is terribly outdated. I've had it on my to-do list for several months, but life has been full and I haven't had a chance to get to it. So I wanted to make sure, out of respect, I did not dismiss or skip this article. Shout out NBC News for covering this article. And just want to talk about it. Again, civic relations and what does that look like with my background. So if you have any questions or comments, please throw them in the comments, either live or in the future, so we can continue to have this conversation. So let's go ahead and jump into it. This is an article that came my way a while back. It's a part of the series that I'm doing covering Haiti and their current events respectfully. And I just want to say as a disclaimer, all of my content, I pray, is designed to stimulate, educate, provide critical thinking opportunities, and more importantly, help you develop an emotional intelligence and help you in a mindset of finding peace within yourself and peace with your neighbors. That's kind of where it has to be. Because you can't have peace with your neighbors a lot of times without having peace with yourself. You can't expect your neighbors to be at peace with you if you can't be at peace with yourself. So that's what this is ultimately designed for, and to see what resources and conversations can be stimulated to minimize challenges across the globe. So here we go. Haitian immigrants grapple with uncertainty as TPS end date looms. Hold on, I'll make sure I'm live on Facebook, y'all. Okay, I'm live. Just want to make sure. All right. The decision to end temporary protection status for 500,000 Haitians living in the U.S. may force most of them to return to a country in crisis. Respectfully, we've been covering Haiti and the challenges they're going through right now. And respectfully, within the U.S., there's a lot of immigration movements going on, and there are opinions of various kinds being expressed. Now, this is something that catches my attention now, and if I had to report this a few months ago, before some of the things that's going on in the U.S. started, then I may have a different perspective. But excuse me, at the time of this article being created in March 8th, and it's now June, almost going into July. There's been several months, that have happened and things have transpired. So this article from back then will hit a little different from what the current events have transpired. So I'm saying to say, I'm going to go into the article. Commercial Break Me Please. Shout out to my friend Joe T. Baker III, who inspired me to start off with Commercial Break Me Please, as he was on social media sharing his story of perseverance, going through challenges, and how he was able to move forward in grace. And so if you want to check him out, go to his website, jtb3, numerical number 3.org, jtb3.org, J as in Joe, T as in Tom, B as in Baker, numerical number 3.org. Follow his work, very inspirational. And he helped me to come up, or inspired me to say Commercial Break Me Please in between what I'm talking about as far as facts and articles, or articles as in my opinion. So Commercial Break Me Please. And I say that because I'm looking at this, and protected status, to me, that means that there's some type of documentation going on. And so with the current movements for immigration in the U.S. right now, some people could say, well, I'm protected. I have the documents. Because I believe, respectfully, the immigration movement within the U.S. is for unprotected or undocumented situations, and that's individuals. I say that respectfully because it's so sensitive, and I give thanks for things working for good and peace. And I don't know, I'm like everybody else, but it's, as a human, it's as a human, I get everything, but my hearts and prayers go out to everyone as far as just quality and happiness and safety and living and growing up in a strong, loving family and getting that love and being able to provide and love for the next generation and how we build. But a lot of people, have gone through challenges, and this is why we're talking about Hades and their challenges, as well as a lot of other countries that have challenges, possibly to some degree why the immigration challenges in the U.S. are happening. And now in this case, you have people that are unprotected and people that are protected, looks like, going back to areas of challenges, countries of challenges. And again, I don't know what those challenges for the countries are to the point of its origin, purpose, and functions. And so that's why it's important. I don't know how, but countries, nation development in the sense of social economic structure, country development in the sense of social economic structure, I think it's going to be essential, because a lot of people had the idea that the social economic structure of the United States is a better fit for them than their country. And I believe the majority of folks are leaving because they're looking for, opportunity, I would assume, and I get it. And there's a lot of history and context that goes behind all this. I get it. But at the same time, just looking at where we are, respectfully, this looks like a conversation that's also affecting protected status individuals as well. And again, this conversation, this mindset, excuse me, may not have been the same back in March, but there's a lot of things that transpired, that makes this article hit a little different in regards to perspective. So, excuse me 1 second, please. Oh, wrong water bottle. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Back to the article. I want to shout out, Fredlin Pierre Lewis for creating the article. Fact check me. Let's do it. I tried to look for more updated articles to see if there was more updates. I don't want to speak too much on older news. I didn't see too many articles related to this this subject after March. Too many of them. There's some in April, whatnot, and so I felt like this was one of the most up-to-date articles focusing on this situation. And I even went as far as going to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services webpage for temporary protected status designated country, Haiti. So we may jump into that as well. I'm not quite sure, but this is a pretty safe article as far as updated information. And again, it's tricky, but it makes you just pray for those and give thanks for those in regards to their safety and wellness, and respectfully those that may be protected in the U.S. A little bit of, I don't know, but just a little, I guess, appreciation or thankfulness in regard to having that protected status, because respectfully, we can see that people are really looking to head toward the U.S. For I'm hoping and assuming for opportunity of growth. So I'm not saying the U.S. is the best or anything. I don't know, but if you're looking at results and numbers, I know I appreciate the services, and I hope that this is why I'm here. I hope that the U.S. can manage strong relationships domestically and internationally. It's very important. We're talking leadership here, and I'm not saying that this country has to be the leader. I'm just saying we all are leaders as individuals first that make up these nations. We have to start with ourselves as leaders first, leading ourselves and trying our best to model what needs to be done to move forward as a collective. So we're just keeping those things in mind as we go on. I want to shout out again Fredwin Pierre Lewis for creating this article. Let's jump into it. The same day, Ghislaine Luma, a 29-year-old Haitian immigrant, learned he was granted temporary protection status to remain in the United States, was the same day President Trump announced plans to cut the program short. Wow. Commercial break me, please. Wow. Back to the article. Figuring out his future with the end of TPS gives me a headache, Luma said. And commercial break me, please. I don't think they showed or said what TPS stood for at this time, so we're going to continue on. For more than 15 years, TPS has allowed thousands of Haitians to work illegally in the U.S. and avoid deportation while their homeland grapples with political instability, gang violence, and economic hardship. That's pretty cool. For more than 15 years. Since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021, forgive me if I mispronounced the president's name, armed gangs have gained control over much of Port-au-Prince, creating a power vacuum that has made governing a challenge and fueled further violence, homelessness, and starvation. Commercial break me, please. Excuse me. That's why this is what we've been covering on this channel. And so I'm just going to go here real quick. Why not? I'm just going to go here real quick and we're just going to go to the channel. Hey, we're going live, y'all. Make sure y'all tapping in. We're going live. Okay, but back to the channel. So this is my Civics channel, and I try my best to cover. This is one here, Sudan. Here's this is one in Hades, Voices of Hope. I have another one, Hades in Crisis, and I'm working to make my playlist. Here's another one, Hades. Presidential Council fires Prime Minister. Hades leader says election can be held this year. So we have been covering as best we can what's going on in Hades. And again, thank you for going to vote for Danavan Hylton, liking, subscribing, following my work. You can check out my consulting and advising services, going to ldhadvising.com. Some things will be changing in the future, but just check me out. Thank you so much. And back to the article. So we have been covering, the governing challenges fueled by violence, homelessness, and starvation. So respectfully, 500,000 people who felt like they had the status for over 15 years that are Haitian are like, man, not only do the undocumented, now the document possibly, the protected, if you will. If you know what I mean? So this is why we're covering it. I don't have all the information. I don't have all the answers. I'm not here to give you an opinion. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm just here to stimulate awareness and conversation. That's it. Help me learn. Fact check me. Let's all do it professionally and in love, though. More than 5,600 people were killed and 1,400 were kidnapped. Excuse me. Amid gang conflicts last year, according to the United Nations. The violence has rendered 1 million people homeless in Haiti, forcing many into makeshift shelters and exacerbating the country's economic challenges. But let me see. I'm just almost inclined to see if I can find that. Give me a second. Commercial break me all. I just feel like this individual just popped up. If I can find it. If this is it. Give me a second. Yeah. So I want to just really quick. This has popped up. I don't know. But when you do this, when you're doing this service, people are going to take a look and are going to respond. So I did this video 6 months ago, and Jacqueline Saint-Tilis 4407 said the UN should aid Haiti and stop pressuring and requiring the Dominican Republic to solve Haiti's problems. No, that's not it. There was another one. I'll comment. I can't find it. Where someone, the point is, if I can find it, I'll leave it. But individual like to comment for like a website or a link to find out more detailed information about Hades and what's going on, then the only way that I know how, which is me minding my own business, and I just happen to come across articles that at the time I speak on. So I'm going to go to this one real quick. Commercial break me, please. That is a very any rate. I can't find it, so we're gonna go back to the article. But if I find the link with more details about Haiti and where they are and just more insight, I'll put it in the comments. Moving on, but the Trump administration's decision to end TPS by August 2025, an estimated 500,000 Haitian immigrants living in the U.S. face an uncertain future, forced to decide whether to stay and fight for legal status or prepare for return to a country in crisis. Commercial break me, please. Respectfully, the two options, not to say the only two options, but the two primary options here is you want to see if you can extend or fight, extend or appeal your legal status to try to, the documentation process. That is obviously, and I say this respectfully and humbly, obviously something you would want to do ASAP, and that's why we may touch into the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services. Some of this information is very clear as far as what their policies are, but there are you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you gotta, a clock is right twice a day. So you still gotta try, So I would say that. So we'll probably jump into this page here. If not, I pray I can remember to leave the link here for you to possibly look to extend or connect with the U.S. government to see what that looks like. You have the automatic employment authorization documentation extension, other immigration options, where to file, when to file, and we could jump into this. Again, a lot of this is back in 2024. We were supposed to kind of make this request as far as extension or whatever, respectfully, but we'll try our best to look into it. If not, I'll leave the link for you to check out yourself. But ultimately, it's a decision of whether to fight for legal status or prepare to return to a country in crisis. And how do you do that? Especially for those that are very memorable of what the crisis looked like. They've probably been able to establish some things here. And, does that resources transfer over for you to take with you? And more so, the bigger questions is as individuals are heading back to their home, to their native countries, if you will. I say these humbly because I may be speaking out of ignorance in a lot of this, but as they head back to that country, is there an opportunity to really help develop those countries to where people feel more certain to be there? I feel to some degree certain to be in the U.S. I really do. And a lot of people just don't have that certainty, respectfully. And so that's why this article was something I wanted to make sure that I saved back in March, and it's even brought more impact with the current events of today. So, for example, let's just look at this here, this picture, respectfully. Now, I serve in respectfully lower income urban areas. and I'm very familiar with, what comes with that, whatever that looks like. And this is another area in a lower income area in a very different country. Let's look at this. People walk past a car set on fire by armed gangs in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, in 2024. You just walking, the day goes on, and you got this going on, and you're still trying to, find a way to move forward. There's really no consequence, if you will. So, it's rough. People, do you really want to respectfully, go back to challenges? And if that's the case, how do we as a unit look at, changing those things around? What, I don't know the details as to how the challenges started. I know, as far as how long, Haiti has a long history. I mean, that's why I've been, has a long history when it comes to the diaspora. So, it's a lot. It's a lot. Leave your thoughts and comments, as far as your thoughts and comments. I mean, leave your thoughts and comments as far as your thoughts on what we're talking about. Neither the White House nor the Department of Homeland Security responded to requests for comment. In and around New York City, where at least 160,000 Haitian people live, Brooklyn's Haitian community has formed deep roots while also sharing fears of deportation. Evangelical Crusade Christian Church in the Flatbush neighborhood has served as a sanctuary for Haitian immigrants for at least 5 decades, providing a range of services, including food pantries, wellness events, and legal assistance. So based on what I'm just reading here, I don't know too much about this body here, but the Evangelical Crusade Christian Church in the Flatbush neighborhood area, just want to give you a shout out for what I could see, providing social services to those that, needed help getting on their feet. And I know very much so, what it's like needing help to get on your feet several times. So you have support systems, and you're very fortunate to have any kind of support system in a world where, support system is not necessarily required or expected, if you will. The community is worried, said the Reverend Samuel Nicholas, the church's senior pastor. For over 15 years, these individuals have built their lives here, believing TPS would eventually lead to permanent residency. Now they're watching that hope slip away. Commercial break me, please. And I'm curious, respectfully, why the administration felt like that protected status needed to be taken away. Just curious, why that need to be taken away. And with the unprotected movement going on, the decision to make the protected status movement happen simultaneously. I know we talked about it, previous videos about the administration looking to become more lean in a lot of areas, to include the creation of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and even talking about dismantling the Department of Education, and taking those fundings and putting it within the states and within community leaders' decisions for education in those particular states. So it's a lot. I'm just curious if there was a way for us to get an interview with someone from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. It would be awesome to join me on the podcast, my podcast, Insight into Insight, All Things Societal. Let's go ahead and make sure you guys if you can, that's not it. Where is my, it's horrible. Give me a second, y'all. Okay. So my platform, my podcast, LDH Podcast. So if you go here, I interview a lot of business, community, and civics leaders, and make sure that I'm able to talk with these leaders and talk about a lot of the current events that's going on in particular areas and opportunities and how to ask questions. And so we thank you for liking and subscribing. And if possible, we can see if we get a representative of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services on the podcast. Back to the article. Many fled the country after a devastating earthquake struck Haiti in 2010, killing more than 200,000 people and leaving an estimated 1.3 million people homeless. Commercial break me, please. I remember that. So you got to imagine that off the back and trying to recover from an earthquake to include the various crises, that's going on currently. Back to the article. In the aftermath, people arrived in the U.S. and gained TPS protection, seeking stability that allowed them to rebuild their lives. But the program was never meant to be a permanent solution. Commercial break me, please. So I really do feel that was a really appropriate move to provide TPS protection status for those looking to rebuild their lives. And it looks like here the program was never meant to be a permanent solution. So those moments or those times where the program was never meant to be a permanent solution, those are the times where there should be building going on, rebuilding and putting things back in place so that when the time does come to end the program respectfully, people are going back to something that is on its way to growth if it's not already growing, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that has been happening. This is new to me. I think of government bonds when it comes to, individuals investing into these government bonds, that these bonds provide, opportunity to make some money in return on your investment so that these essential infrastructure necessities are created, not only from an earthquake, but from the crisis of civic turmoil, So not only did the earthquake happen and the rebuilding didn't truly happen like that, but now there's civic turmoil going on. So the situation might be worse, and so, and I know at some point, countries have to be accountable for what goes on in those countries. I don't know all the details to say, oh, well, this is why they're not doing it. And I don't know all the details. And I probably don't want to know the details, to be honest with you. That's why those in these positions, it's a different ballgame. And as a former elected official myself and being around civics from the community engagement level, mostly in areas of employment, real estate development, education, at the minimum, it's been quite an experience to see firsthand, just the intricacies and the fluidity that is required in that realm. Back to the article, Abigail Disravanese, a 35-year-old Haitian immigrant, came to the U.S. following the earthquake. The conditions were getting worse and worse. Desravines, recalled. Family members in the U.S. were calling, asking what we were going to do. We told them we wanted to come here for school because I could not stay in Haiti for school. I lost classmates. There was a lot of loss. Desravines said TPS allowed her and her sister to build life in the U.S., and she eventually earned a green card. Despite the protection it offered, Desravines said living under TPS still involved hurdles and instability. People think TPS is a free pass, but it's not, Desravines said. You have to keep renewing, pay fees, and live with the fear that it could end at any time. It's not an easy path. On top of paying fees, some colleges require TPS holders to pay tuition out of pocket like international students, she said. Even though we lived in the U.S. for years, some colleges did not allow us in-state tuition. And I'm going to commercial break me, please. So there are challenges to the TPS process. And I'm not going to say I would expect that, but I wouldn't be surprised. And in this case, because you're just surviving and looking to thrive, you just got to take the resources that are available. And so even if you can go to a college that may not be the one you want to go to, it's a college. And more importantly and respectfully, it's not the school you wanted to leave the school, the colleges in your area. So, it's something. And I've been in a lot of positions where you just got to take the resources that are available to you, make the best of them, and build to get to the next phase. And that's what it looks like reading the path for Miss Desravines. It's not a free pass, and it's not an easy path. Desravines' parents remained in Haiti while she and her sister lived with extended family and continued their education. While adjusting to life in the U.S., the sisters quietly shouldered the burden of work, studies, and immigration uncertainties without adding further stress to their parents as they dealt with the earthquake's aftermath. My parents had their own struggles, she said. We had the opportunity to come to the U.S. and we did not want our parents to worry, but it affected us emotionally. And it did affect our grades. I understand respectfully. That's definitely understandable. The end of the program will create a disruption as many TPS holders have jobs, attend school, and are parts of their communities. Commercial break me, please. I don't want to forget this moment. I don't want to forget this moment right here, but commercial break me, please. If there's any way we can come up with a think tank, some type of council to come together and let's see what can be done by August. Like that's just what it has to be, because some people will have to go, and some people will try to hide out, and they have to have something to go back to. I don't know it all, but there has to be something. And respectfully to the leadership right now, or the new leadership, or the leadership in Hades, there has to be an opportunity for those that are coming back and for those that are there. I don't again know what's all stopping those things and what the challenges are. I'm going to go back to vote for Danavan Hylton, because I know that there's a new president in Hades, and this president has kind of been elected through a non-traditional way, from my understanding. I'm not speaking out of ignorance. And this interim, or this newly elected president not too long ago, is a business person. So here's an article here. Haiti's presidential council fires prime minister, names businessman in controversial move. So I'm interested to see, what the Haiti's president is doing to prepare for, the 500,000 people coming in that respectfully were, either working or going to school, trying to figure something out, and they're used to a particular process. Now they're coming back. These could be individuals that can help build, first of all. But you have to have the certainty, the security, the legitimacy for those things to happen. And so I'm just curious, does the country need, I'm here to have a conversation to see what resources can be connected. I'm sure the U.S. is in close conversations with Hades, about these various changes happening within Hades already, with the earthquake, obviously with the challenges going on with the violence, and then obviously you have protection statuses ending in August. So that's three major events happening, or three major within a span of 20 years, and we need to see what that looks like. So if anyone's open to a council or introducing me or something like that, being a part of a conversation to provide any kind of inside access and resources, I'm here because, these holders had jobs, they went to school, and a part of their communities. Back to the article. For those now facing the threat of deportation, the prospect of returning to Hades is daunting. The country remains plagued by instability, and Nicholas said he believes sending people back under these conditions is inhumane. That touches deep, because returning is daunting. The country is plagued with instability, and sending people back under these conditions is inhumane. And I'm going to say that this part and bring it back to, again, respectfully, the administration's decision as to, why, and again, tough decisions have to be made in leadership positions. I get it. I really do. But I'm just curious, inhumane. Let's look that up. Inhumane. Branding counts for a lot. Without compassion for misery or suffering. Cruel. Without compassion for misery or suffering. So sending people back under these conditions is without compassion and misery and cruel. What's your thoughts? How do we, this is where we are. And a lot of times you got to say, this is where we are. This is the timeline we have. What can we do now? History is there. We get it. What can we do right now? We have no time to waste. Hades is not a place where people with TPS or those under humanitarian programs can return. He said Haiti is being overrun by armed groups and the infrastructure is barely functioning. Not only can a business operate, but for sure a country can operate. A community or neighborhood cannot operate if there are nothing wrong with armed groups, but if they're not complementing the growth and the direction for the people to flourish, That's a challenge. And if the infrastructure, if you don't know what infrastructure is when it comes to these developments, the infrastructure is the basic physical and organizational structures and facilities. Example, ergo, buildings, roads, power supplies needed for the operation of a society or enterprise. So if you're being overrun by armed individuals that are not supporting respectfully buildings, roads, power supplies that are needed for operation of a society, then that's a daunting thought. What do you do? Like what, respectfully. That's why I wanted to just share this and just have a conversation, create awareness. Luma, the new TPS recipient, said he has also applied for asylum and holds a work permit, which is valid until 2029. Commercial break me, please. So at the minimum, if you're watching this or if you're looking at it and you know someone that might be in this position or you yourself are in this position, we might have to follow Luma and look at work permits. And I know I was going to actually do an article. That's actually funny because before I chose this article, I was going to do an article about, the U.S. administration, the current U.S. administration's views on the H-1B visas. I think that's what it's called, the H-1B visas and the work permits and what they're looking to do as far as that. And it's ironic because I should have. Well, now that I doing this article and it's in conjunction, this article is going to be complement to the H-1B, HB1 visa article that I came across not too long ago. But ultimately, bringing it back to the article, applying for a work permit, it doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but you're looking for any kind of documentation, and it's valid until 2029. However, his legal status is not guaranteed. In 2027, a judge will decide his asylum claim. So you can seek asylum and apply for a work permit. And I'm saying all these things humbly and with compassion, because I don't even understand the magnitude of what's going on here because I'm not from there. I'm not in that area, but I do have an idea. We've been following, and I do respect human beings and their humaneness, if you will. When you appear before a judge, you never know what decision they will make. So TPS would have been an extra layer of security in a difficult situation, he said. Luma said he was concerned for friends and relatives who rely solely on TPS. A person with only TPS works, buys a car, buys a house, and now all their documents will expire. He said they will have no choice but to self-deport because there's no way to live without legal documents. And that's kind of where the conversation is right now with the current immigration processes going on. It's looking like legal documentation is what is being focused on. So even Luma is saying, once the TPS expires, there's no choice but to self-deport. That's a powerful statement because there's no way to live without legal documentations. Many immigrants send money for food, education, and healthcare to their families in Haiti. Nicholas said, if they are deported, that financial support will disappear, worsening Haiti's humanitarian crisis. I didn't even think about that personally. So just having that in mind, that's a revenue generation or generator that's gone, which at some point was at least supplementing or assisting the overall sustainability of Haiti's. Was, I'm sure, the government or even those armed groups, relying on money coming in. And it just changes everything. You have some that, are young maybe when they had asylum and they came out here or had the protection, and now they're, middle age and they just are familiar with America and that particular grind. And then now you're, that's for a lot of individuals from a lot of different countries. It's I'm lost for words in regards to just being respectful to the situation because it's man. Nicholas said the deportations will also have a social and economic impact in the United States. That's the word I used earlier, social economic. But let's look at what the article says. Haitians are part of the fabric of New York. I can see that, he said. They fill our churches, they work in jobs others won't take, they contribute to our economy. If TPS ends, it won't just be a Haitian problem, it will be a New York problem and a national problem. This is what we're going to look and see. If we can come to the table, allow me to come to the table, or, what those conversations look like. Doesn't have to be at the largest scale, just the table. If TPS ends, it won't just be a Haitian problem, it will be a New York problem and a national problem. Immigrant advocacy groups are calling for legislative action to protect TPS holders, pushing for a pathway to residency for those who have lived in the U.S. for years. I can see that. Commercial break me, please. Back to the article. A group of organizations filed a lawsuit Monday seeking to block the Trump administration's attempt to end TPS for Haitians early. I'm going to click the link real quick and just bring you to the article for you to check out. I can't guarantee it, but I pray I can leave this article up here or put in the link. But it's Haitians sue to stop Trump administration from revoking temporary protection. This is back in March. Excuse me. Nicholas said he hopes Congress steps in to provide relief or that Trump has a change of heart. My hope is that our president will have a compassionate heart, and that goes back to that word inhumane, that word compassion or uncompassionate. My hope is that our president will have a compassionate heart and recognize that Haiti is not a place these people can return to, he said. Where would they go? What infrastructure is in place for them? If we call ourselves a nation built on Christian values, then we must act with compassion. I can see that statement, and you got to, hit them with every angle, But in addition to that, that's a very powerful last paragraph for this article, Friedland. That's a very powerful article, and I'm going to say Friedland Pierre-Louis. Friedland Pierre-Louis is a production assistant for Early Today and a featured contributor for NBC News on digital and broadcast. Thank you so much, Friedland, for your article, for your words, for your thoughts. And again, it's going to boil down to recognizing that Haiti is not a place that people can return to. What infrastructure is in place for them? I don't know the details, so I might be speaking out of ignorance in this situation. But something in me right now feels that, especially because then it's hard to decide which country, is in crisis enough to get that compassion. One country may feel like theirs should get the compassion too. So I'm not, and this is why those decisions have to come to the table. Someone's not going to be happy, period, being even the decision makers in these situations. But ultimately, possibly, those that are seeking asylum, we all know Haiti is a rough country to live in right now. We've been covering that, and they're just with the earthquake that was still devastating to this day. It's the loss of a elected president to a armed crisis going on with violence and starvation and homelessness. Is it the best time to send 500,000 people that supposedly are, working, going to school, being a pillar in the community in those areas? Is it necessary to really send them right now? Can we extend it at least? Can you extend it at least and then come up with DOGE can come up with a program that puts structure and stability in that country? Let DOGE do it. Whatever you guys feel is necessary. And then we got to take $1 and turn it into $4. So they give you a little bit of money. You can't play with the money and not put it in essential places that can allow it to grow. So if you get a little bit of money to work with, then you got to use that as seed capital. You can use that to get more investments, and you have your money work for you in regards to putting back in. So you could take the money that you get as seed capital from DOGE or Office of Management and Budget and say, hey, we're going to put it right in. Or you can put the money into an opportunity where you can put together a think tank or something where people saying, okay, you got this amount of money, put it a percentage here, but then put a percentage here so it can allow it to grow to make more to be able to put back into the development. Because it's going to be kind enough for organizations, sources, and bodies to give you the money, but a lot of times that money that you take, you shouldn't always spend it all. You want to try to put it in some type of machine that's going to allow it to produce more at the same time of putting it into your immediate essentials. So I'm curious, and I could be wrong, but just from what I've covered, can a extension past August? Let's just go ahead and jump into this conversation real quick. Temporary, and this is coming from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. This is from the temporary protected status designated for country Haiti. Alert. On February 20, 2005, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem partially vacated the July 1, 2024 notice that extended and redesignated Haiti for temporary protection status. The announcement amends the period of extension and redesignation of Haiti for TPS from 18 months to 12 months with a new end date of August 3rd, 2025, and makes a corresponding change to the initial registration period for new applicants under the redesignation, which will now remain in effect through August 3rd, 2025. For additional information, please see the federal registration notice. Let's just click on it and see. And these are things that if you can have access to your computer, check it out and look and see what can be done. What can be done. You have no choice but to try. Summary. Through the notice, the Department of Homeland Security announces that the Secretary of Homeland Security has decided to partially vacate the June 4, 2024 decision of former Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas regarding the extension of the designation of Haiti for temporary protection status and the new designation of Haiti for TPS. In the 2024 action, former Secretary Mayorkas again extended the designation of Haiti for TPS for the statutory maximum of 18 months until February 3rd, 2026, which covered approximately 199,445 Haitian nationals, and again newly designated Haiti for TPS, which had the effect of allowing approximately 321,349 additional Haitian nationals to qualify for the same 18-month period. I'm going to stop right here. In this case, and what I can see, if I'm not speaking out of ignorance, I want to give a shout out Secretary Mayorkas for this particular situation of extending those extensions. And I know those, excuse me, I know the can could not be kicked down the road for too long. It's just unfortunate to see, excuse me, it's just unfortunate to see that at this time, excuse me, y'all, it's unfortunate to see that at this time that the decision to continue to kick the can down the road is no longer a possible option. So this administration is looking at possibly no longer kicking that can down the road. I know the can cannot be kicked forever, but it's just hard to see in the real time. And so if there's any way to at least extend the citizenship, now again, you can go through the vetting process. They can still go through the traditional, the 500,000 can still go through the traditional immigration process, and you know you take a test as far as learning various things that most traditional Americans don't know. But ultimately, that's a way, and that could be a way to also help the city of New York, because again, they said that that's going to be a challenge, the city of New York, and finding, a group to be able to jump in to fill those gaps of what, the Haitian community is doing, in those areas, as far as jobs and schools and helping to contribute tax dollars and things of that nature. So let me know what you think. That's the end of the article. Again, thank you, NBC News, for powering this article, and Fredlin Pierre Lewis for writing this article, and stand in agreement for your continued success in your personal life and your career. And again, let me know what you think. I would love to come to the table. If there's any groups that are, legitimate, first of all, and have some type of access to really see what conversations look like, feel free to reach out. I'll help where I can. Leave your comments of what more, if you have any content that support this conversation, or if you have any questions, leave it in the comments. If you want me to talk a little more about a particular subject that we talked about here, leave that in the comments as well. And again, thank you so much for sharing, liking, supporting, and for your monetary financial donation and the amount that you felt this message was worth to you, so I can continue on with this work. Wishing everyone well and see you soon. Peace.